your marks.
Hi, I'm James Guy.
This is Emily Lard.
I'm Duncan Scott.
Hi, this is Harriet West.
Hey, this is Freya Anderson and you're listening to the London Raw podcast.
The preliminary skirmishes are over and the semi-final lineup is now set with the London Raw safely through. Welcome to episode 5 of the London Raw podcast. This is Steve from poolboy.co.uk. My usual podcast companions Katy and Bob will be here soon and we'll chat to Freya Anderson and James Guy about the final double-header of matches. So let's head to Budapest and the three of us will be back at the end to mop things up. Me again with a quick apology. The guys in Budapest were having some Wi-Fi issues, so the audio isn't as good as we'd have hoped on this episode. Okay, let's cross over to Budapest, where Freya Anderson and James Guy are joining us. Welcome to the podcast, the two of you. Let's dive into the double header of matches that you've just come out of, and we're going to deal with the big talking point straight away, Freya. Had everyone talking your appearance in the breaststroke skins. How did that come about?
Oh, God. Well, the morning of racing, so yesterday morning, Mel texted me saying, "Oh, we've got a team predicament. You know, Ali has got a bit of a groin issue, so it's better to rest her, obviously." And then I had to hop into skins. And I think it's been like maybe 5 years since I've properly raced breaststroke, so there's no pressure on me. It's just to fill a spot. And luckily enough, I didn't embarrass myself too much, so I was happy with it.
I think the opposite of embarrassing yourself. Everyone was very impressed with a 30.1 and a fifth place, but it's not something you fancy repeating then?
I wouldn't mind repeating it. Obviously, there's better people. Like when Ali is, on her top form, she obviously will be in there. But no, it'd be nice to do it again one time, maybe to just perfect things that were a bit off. But yeah, it was really fun to do it yesterday. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
You'd prefer to have a go at freestyle, though, I assume.
Oh yeah, definitely. Breaststroke was a bit too far, a bit embarrassing, but freestyle would be good.
Okay, James. If we come back to the matches, you were co-captain for that last match, and obviously had a tough match 2 days before with Katy. 4 hard days of racing.
Yeah, it was interesting. Obviously yesterday was a bit of an easy day for me doing the 50 fly. I can't sprint butterfly shot course at all. But doing the 400s back to back, it tires you out a lot. And, it's good to know that, between round 3 and 4, the rest days were 2 days off. But, the times have come down slowly. I'm getting faster and faster each round. So hopefully by the final, it should be kind of hopefully around the 340s again, or 339 would be quite nice.
Because you're having to play catch-up, aren't you? That's the point. You're having to play catch-up, not having been there from the outset. So you're kind of a step behind everybody in a way.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, we had 2 weeks out of the pool, end of September, start of October. So, we've had not really one block of work done yet. We did a normal 4-week build like everybody else in the UK. And, straight away, 2 weeks out of the water, staying at home, not training, not touching the water at all. 1 week of swimming again and flying out to ISL to race the best in the world. And it's clear to see that a lot of the guys here haven't had a break. They've not been affected by the quarantine like we have in the UK. They've trained completely through it. I think Dressel's had 9 days off in total the whole time, we were out of the water for almost 10 weeks. So you can take that into consideration, a lot of these guys are on top form, they've shaved down, ready to go. And I think a lot of the Brits are playing a bit of catch up, but it is what it is and we're going to race as fast as we can.
And how you say you think you're improving, you're feeling positive that your form is coming back to where you'd like it?
Yeah, of course. It's hard though knowing what the work we've done behind us is. It's not enough work at all to be, going to be around the 335, 360 run the PB. That's just not realistic. You have to be realistic of where you are. And for a 400 free, you have to do the background work. But, obviously the bigger goal is the Olympic Games. It's not the ISL. And, it's kind of a stepping stones towards that.
Because the thing is, you're not training for the 400 free these days anyway, are you? Because you came down a distance and you were concentrating mainly on the 200.
Yeah, obviously moving from Joel to Dave, our main focus was doing the work for the 4, which will give you the back end for the 200. So always kind of have the idea of training for the 400 and racing the 2. Do not race the 400 at all. But obviously it's the ISL, they need a 400 summer. I've been doing it for a long time, so I can still do it. But the 200 obviously is the main focus. But short course, it's a different sport. It's a different game. Tactics are completely different. If you can't turn, or your skills aren't very good, you're going to be that's going to show very, very quickly. Whereas a long course swim, it's more of how fast your swim speed actually is, and a great example of that is Mr. Peaty, of course.
Well, indeed. Now, Freya, you've had the same disrupted build-up that James has just alluded to. Were you expecting to go to Budapest and swim as fast as you had? I mean, you've knocked out some fantastic times so far.
I don't think I'd expected it, but I obviously wanted to. And even I was saying to all my friends, like, the racing at ISL's been so up and down. Like, I really didn't know what to expect from myself anyway. So to swim how I am is quite a bonus, I guess. So yeah, it'd just be good to keep carrying on the momentum to the next round.
So there was no inkling in training that you would be able to swim you swam a lot of PBs, but a British record in the 200 free stands out, but you weren't. Not
really. I think in training, obviously, had been going really well. We had the disruption and stuff, but we were obviously in a like an endurance cycle, which obviously isn't my strong point. I prefer to do like anaerobic stuff, and so yeah, I was just like sort of plodding along with training, and yeah, I guess I think it was quite a lot of mental stuff as well coming into here. Just trying to like be in our situation and race the best in the world, you do have to be very mentally strong in the arena, I think.
Freya, can I ask you about your pacing on your 100? I guess mainly your 200. You just come back so strong. Is that something that you've sort of worked on, or is it just something that you're sort of where you're naturally strong?
Yeah, I think it's just naturally where I'm at. My old coach Alan said that I always have had this like desire to want to get my hand on the wall first, like just instilled in me. And obviously, with having my weak first 50s, I guess I don't have the speed that most of the girls do, especially in short course. It's just about fighting, I guess, in the last 50, especially in the 100, but still in the 200, just to like empty the tank a bit is what goes through my head.
Is it a thing that you feel like you hold back on the first half, or is it just that the second half comes to you, and that's where the sort of racing kicks in?
I think with the first half, I just physically can't get into that like speed that all the other girls do. So yeah, it's definitely something to work on in training. But then yeah, the last 50, I think I've always just had that. So I don't know. I think I need to start practicing going out a bit harder and see how I can come back.
Well, there have been a lot of comments about your pacing, hasn't there, in commentary, and I'm sure on the pool deck as well. People saying, well, look at her splits. There's negative splits and things like that. Are you aware you're doing that, or is it still work in progress as far as you're concerned?
Well, say, for example, like my first 200, which I think I was 154, like I went out super, super slow. That was like a bit of a regret, but that was just, down to the fact that I hadn't raced since March. So it was just like that was blowing away the cobwebs. And then, once I had the second match, it was just about getting the race plan better than last time. Like, I really didn't want to do what I did last time and go out super, super slow. Because obviously I thought that I'd have this easy speed, but you only get that once you're rested and stuff. So yeah, we're definitely not rested. So yeah, it's just about righting them wrongs.
Seems to be working pretty well so far, though, even if you're seeing wrongs there.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's always good to, even if you have had a good swim, there's always stuff to improve on. So, like, as soon as we get through the race videos, watch them and talk to your coach about what you can improve on. So yeah, that's always my mentality when I finish a race. Never be satisfied, I guess.
Good advice for swimmers everywhere, I think. Freya referred there, James, to not being rested. Are you still working hard through this last set of matches, and will you get a chance to perhaps drop that off as you come to the next rounds?
I think generally, when we came into the ISL, our initial plan was to work extremely hard through it, But honestly, guys, the way people are swimming here, the Americans, a lot of the Australians, well, not Australians, so they're not even here. A lot of the European countries, they are rested and ready to go. They're swimming really, really fast. And realistically, you have to join the party to do that, to swim fast. You can't be doing all this work and being really, really fresh. It's just not realistic. So, I think Dave's going to start backing us off now towards the last two meets. We've got 2 more rounds to go. Semi-final this weekend, final the weekend after. And I think it's time to kind of join the party and get ready to go, really. It's our last kind of meet for a while, we think so. From what we've been told, with the Edinburgh meet and meets being cancelled next year. So we actually don't have an idea when we're going to race again. So we'll have to enjoy it and race the best in the world and do what we can.
How much work have you done on your turns?
We're getting there. It's interesting, It's actually, trying to approach the wall a lot better. I know I still do double breaths into the wall, and that's something on a 400 you can't do. But the 200, it's definitely trying to get there. And that's one thing I've got to work on is my turns underwater. I know I can do the underwater phase. It's good, but it's not the best in the world. It's not a Killer Dressel or a Ryan Lochte.
You've got the semi-final coming up this weekend, and then obviously on to the final, we hope, afterwards. What's the mood like in the camp? Are you all upbeat and confident about your chances at the weekend?
Yeah, of course. I think Mel's main approach from yesterday was round 4 for us was just to get the job done. And now these next few days, shut off, relax, watch films, don't think about swimming. While we kind of start winding down, getting mentally prepared emotionally, and getting ready for the semi-finals on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be a tight race between ourselves and energy for the top 2 spots. But we're going to take one day at a time and one round at a time, and that's the most important thing, not getting too far ahead of yourself and just enjoying what you're doing.
And we've talked a bit to both of you about doing kind of events that you wouldn't normally do and taking one for the team. That's something normally, I guess, as British swimmers that you don't really get a chance to do or have to do because you're so focused on your events. What is it about the ISL and about being part of London Raw that makes you kind of want to take on that challenge and take one for the team?
It's quite interesting in the fact that, once you're kind of down for a relay, you're swimming it, and it's kind of getting used to doing back-to-back swims at a serious competition. You can do it at a normal local meet, but, here you're doing it with the best in the world. Like, for example, doing the 4x1 freestyle relay, which I would never normally do, into a 4 free at like a games or world championship. It's just unrealistic. It would never happen. It's part of being that kind of team environment, that arena team environment, that culture of getting up and going again. You look at Killer Dressel, what he's doing, he's doing 4 or 5 swims, 1500s back to back, not much swim down. And you can do it. I mean, look at the Iron Lady, she's been doing it for years. So I think a lot of it is mentally in your head as well. But having the emphasis of London Raw, obviously not having the Australians this year, it's kind of a bit of an impact on us. But we full well know that, we can go again, we can step up and go again. And if the team needs us, we're ready to go.
Freya, James was talking about the match you've got coming up against Energy at the weekend. Obviously, they're very strong in women's freestyle in your events. I mean, do you think about who you'll be swimming against at all? The likes of Sarah Sjostrom and Siobhan Hawkey, who've been very impressive so far this season.
Yeah, definitely. They've both definitely been really strong, especially Siobhan in her 200. I don't think I've ever raced her, so that'll be interesting. I think she obviously goes out really fast and closes quite fast, so it'd be good to have different tactics around me. And especially Sarah's really, really strong in the 100, and they've got plenty of girls to do the 100, so even the relays will be interesting. So I think it'd just be good to race different people.
How much do you take on board what's happening around you? Or are you very much a focused swimmer who just thinks about their race?
I think it's good to have an idea what's happening. I think I've always been a little bit of a swimming nerd anyway. I like to be in the loop. So, yeah, I'm always checking how people are doing and stuff. But you have to try and not let it get to you, I guess, and just focus on yourself when it comes to it.
And you're out there with the Raw, obviously, and that means that you're training with a lot of people that you will know from the British team and from back in Bath. Are you getting to train much with others that perhaps you wouldn't train with normally, and who are you enjoying training with?
Well, we kind of have our own pretty much Bath-centred group. Obviously, Dave's out here, our coach, so it's us. It's 5 of us. And Marius Kusch from Germany, or he trains in America. But Mel's put on some we've done some relays together as a team session. That was really fun, obviously, just mixing up the teams, getting to know each other. And
James, what's your final thoughts about the last, hopefully, 2 matches of the season? What are you hoping that the team can achieve?
Leading into the next 2 matches, for myself, it's just about enjoying it. Being away for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, it's a long time. Being realistic of where I am in my physical training, I'm not in the best shape I am. I'm not as fast as I was last year. But I'm here, I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing. I'm going to race as fast as I can. And I'll do the best I can for the team. And if they need me, I'll be ready to go. for myself, this is kind of a stepping stone towards the Olympic Games next year. And I'm really enjoying myself and some as fast as I can for the team.
What are you missing most about being away?
Mum's cooking. Mum's roast dinners is obviously the best thing. And, just going for a walk. Obviously, being in the ISL bubble, you can't really go down to town for a little shop. You're in your room. But it is what it is. You've got to enjoy it.
And Freya, just one final question for you. We talked about breaststroke skins at the start of this conversation, but lots of people are wondering, whether we might see you in other events. In particular, Sharon Davies asked me on Twitter to ask you whether you might consider the 200 IM.
Oh God,
your backstroke.
My backstroke would completely let me down. I've obviously done 200 IMs in the past, just at like little meets, and I find them really hard actually. Like I may have like an all right fly, an all right breaststroke, and an all right freestyle, but like for some reason I just can't put them together. So I don't know. I don't think you'll be seeing that very in the future.
We'll keep that one on the bottom of the list. One final thought, Freya, before we let you go. What are you going to take away from this ISL season?
I think there's a lot of takeaways, and like especially in different areas. But one of them, in the technical area for my racing, like obviously my turns are still a weakness of mine. So just to be good to get back into training and start focusing on my turns again. Obviously, with everything being so interrupted, it was all about getting our fitness back after the big lockdown. So yeah, it'd be good to just start refining down on them little skills again.
Right, well, we will leave the two of you to your recuperation and preparations for the weekend. We'll wish you all the best for the semi-final and leave you to it. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
I am Kira Toussaint, and this is the London Roar podcast.
So we heard from Freya and James over in Budapest there, and Katy, Freya's form has been a massive bonus for the Roar this season, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. She talked about that 200 freestyle British record, but I mean, she's been putting together some of the fastest 100 freestyle relay splits of all time. And it's quite strange, actually. I think about the ISL last year where she was pretty much just a member of Aqua Centurions, and this year she is one of the big names on one of the top teams, and I think people are really, really taking notice of her and expecting big things from her at the Olympics next year, which we hope take place.
I think the great thing she had was the unknown quantity when she came in, and people now are going, oh, who is this? And they're now really starting to take notice of what we've been seeing for the last couple of years, but perhaps internationally other people have not seen. So she isn't now the person that people don't know about. They know an awful lot about her, and her opponents in her events will certainly be knowing about her now.
Well, everyone will certainly be sitting up and taking notice of her performances so far. We heard both of them, but James in particular, talking about the hard work they're in, Bob, and the fact that they may be allowed by Dave McNulty to have a little bit of a taper for the next two rounds, which is encouraging for the team. We've already seen Tom Dean showing a bit more form. Holly Hibbert looked a bit better in the last match compared to the previous matches. So if those guys can back off and get a bit more energy, that's only going to be an advantage.
Absolutely, and going outside the Bath bubble, Duncan Scott's improving rapidly with pretty much every round too, and we know that he does a range of events. It's good to see him getting back into a semblance of what we would expect from him. I think there's still better to come, and I think he will be a pivotal person in the semi-final and hopefully the final for London Roar, because there's just elements of the world-class performer that Duncan Scott is coming to the fore right now.
Well, he certainly took the 400 IM by the scruff of the neck in the last round of the preliminary rounds and won that. So yes, hopefully some return to his top form coming. The women's 400 IM, we saw a really impressive swim from Sydney Pickram. She was on episode 2 of this podcast a couple of weeks ago. Set a Canadian record, and those 400 IMs could be crucial in the following rounds. Katy, what with the Cali having lost Melanie Margulis?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, we've seen in a couple of the rounds that perhaps London Roar's day 2 has been a little bit weaker. So it's really, really great to see the swimmers coming into a bit of form in some of those events. And I think, Sydney was obviously great on the podcast. I thought maybe the first round she looked a little bit off, a little bit flat, but she had a couple of great swims in this most recent round. I think she put together a really good 200 breaststroke as well as that Canadian record in the 400 IM. And I think it sort of shows the how comfortable they're making it as a training environment for swimmers, you know, who are without their normal home program and home coach, and they're still managing to put together lifetime best swims. It says a lot for Mel and the team.
I'm a little bit worried about our guest from last week, though, Steve. I've got to say that obviously Alia would not normally pull out an event. Maybe it was precautionary. Hopefully it was. But those two breaststroke skins are very key for the London Roar going forward.
Well, indeed. Alia did swim. She swam the fly, didn't she? As well as the individual breaststroke. So hopefully, no, as you say, just precautionary, because she'll be a massive part of the next two rounds. That was kind of part of the selection, really, for the fourth round, Bob. I know you were not especially keen on switching things around and resting people and so on, but that was the approach that was taken.
Yeah, I'm never overly pleased or convinced by that, but you know, Mel has to do what she feels is right to do, and if, you know, she knows her swimmers far better than I. She knows their preparation better than I. She knows what they're capable of that situation better than I. But I just think aesthetically, I don't really like that kind of playing around situation. I think you're in a high profile situation, an event where you're doing particularly well. You don't really want to drop off that level of performance.
Well, back to normal service this weekend for the semi-final, Katy. How do you rank Roar's prospects? They've got Energy Standard, the Frog Kings, and the New York Breakers in their semi-final. Chances of making the final?
Yeah, I think we've got a good chance. Obviously, we haven't faced off against Energy yet, and they've put together some really, really strong performances. And I don't think we're tested as much as London were in the most recent round. I am hopeful that we can beat Tokyo, as we've done previously, but they do obviously have a really strong second day particularly, and look like they're improving all the time. But I think it's exactly as Mel's described. The team wants to be building on every round. People who are perhaps less used to putting together lots of fast swims in a short period might have had a bit of a rest over the past couple of days and will be ready and fresh for the semi-finals. So I can see us taking one of those two top spots and making the final, and I've got everything crossed. That is the way it comes out.
And Bob, the preliminary rounds are now done. Your view of the league as a whole? Probably Cali the team to beat?
Yeah, they look very strong, though. They don't seem to have too many deficiencies, and they seem to have people who can step into roles that perhaps they're not that accustomed to in depth. But yeah, but there again, they've raced very hard, and they've got their few days now to recuperate and get back in there. Maybe things will be different this time around, but Cali do look like the team to beat. Energy is strong, London is strong. You have to put your money on those two going through. There's obviously quite a few Brits who are in the New York team who we hope do well, like Joe Litchfield, for example, this weekend. From a London Royal position, not that well, obviously. But yeah, it's been very good, and you know, as was pointed out the other day, it is now getting incredibly competitive. Not that it wasn't from the outset, but now that the races are incredibly tight. We had three swimmers finishing in second place, didn't we, in the last event? You know, it is getting so tight and so close now. The smallest of margins are going to separate this probably.
Well, I think that's right. The fine margins are going to come out in lots of ways. I mean, the first match that Roar have just finished against Cali, it was 15.5 points, the margin in the end. It looked like it might have been more, but you can trace that back and maybe a few tenths either way in the women's medley relay, so that London got to pick the skins instead of Cali, and all of a sudden that could easily have swung round. So I think that the matches this weekend are going to be on a knife edge, and they're going to be very exciting, I hope. Let's call it a day there and draw this podcast to a close. Bob, Katy, thank you as ever for your contributions.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back after the semi-finals for the next episode of the London Roar podcast. If you want to get in touch in the meantime, you can find me on Twitter at Poolboy or Poolboy UK on Instagram and Facebook, or you can go to poolboy.co.uk/contact to send an email. There is a link in the description to this podcast if you want to send us a voice message or ask a question, or feel free to leave us one on Twitter as Sharon did. Until the next episode, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the London Roar podcast by Poolboy. For more episodes, visit www.poolboy.co.uk/roar.